Hey guys, it's Bart Johnson here, and today we're going to be doing, obviously, a lighting review, if you couldn't tell from the fact that I'm here in a studio setup and I've got tons of lights around me. But the one light that I want to specifically look at is one of the newer lights from Aputure, and I have it here. It's the Aputure 120D. And what makes this light unique and different from some other LED lights is that instead of being a panel with multiple sources and little LEDs all over, this is actually a single source hard light. So the way that this works is it's called COB, which stands for chip on board. So it has this large chip here that actually has a whole bunch of LEDs packed onto it that act as one single really powerful, really bright source. Now, this being the 120D, it is the latest version. They came out earlier with the 120T, which is a tungsten balanced version of this same light. Now, the 120T has been reviewed by tons and tons of people about the build quality and the specs and all sorts of stuff, so I'm not going to go into that in as much detail. But what I really want to do today is test this daylight balanced version of the light. It's supposed to be balanced to about 6,000 degrees Kelvin, and of course, along with most of the other Aputure lights, it's supposed to have a 95 plus CRI rating, so you're supposed to get some really good color out of it. The benefit of it being a hard source light also is that you're going to be able to modify and cut the light and shape it in a lot of different ways that you couldn't do with a panel. Panels sort of blast light all over the place. One of the cool features of this light and its sister, the 120T, is that it has a standard Bowens S-mount attachment here. Bowens S-mount is something that still photographers have been using for years for sort of flash heads and strobes and stuff like that, which means that now you can take all of those cheap photo accessories, well, maybe not cheap, but affordable photo accessories, and you can use them to put all sorts of things on this light. Soft boxes, reflectors, beauty dishes, grids, barn doors, all sorts of things. And you're able to use them now because since this is an LED, it doesn't generate the heat of continuous tungsten lights, and it's not going to burn up and damage those accessories that are usually just used to strobe or flash. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go ahead and we're going to test Aputure's claims on this light. We're going to see what the color temperature is, the quality of the light in CRI and TLCI, and we're also going to compare it to some of the other lights in the Aputure family. As you can see around me, we've got representatives from pretty much the entire spectrum of the Aputure brand. We've got a Lightstorm 1/2, we've got Lightstorm LS1Cs, which are bicolor, and Lightstorm LS1S, which is their daylight version. And we also have a few lights from some other brands that we're going to throw into the mix as well. So I've come here today with my friends Tim Wilson and Derek Allen from Gear Jones, and they've provided this space for me and a lot of the lighting because I could not get this many lights together on my own. So we're going to be getting into those tests and seeing what the 120D is capable of and see if it's a quality light that we're interested in picking up and adding to our kits. So like I said, one of the tests that we want to do today is we want to take the 120D here and we want to check its specs against its claims. Particularly, we want to look at CRI and TLCI, which is the quality of the color of the light and its ability to recreate colors accurately. And we also want to check what the color temperature is. It's rated about 6,000 Kelvin, and we want to see exactly how close it is to that. So to do that today, I have a spectrometer here from ICANN. They work together with a company called Aputure, and this is their CV600 meter. And what this is going to allow me to do is to see not only the lux or the brightness of the light, but I'm also going to be able to check the CRI, the TLCI, and of course our color temperature, and I can go in depth and look at all those ratings, but this will give us everything we need in just one test. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get this guy fired up, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. So let me get the 120D turned on, and as you can see, it is a bright light, and go ahead and get set up for our reading. So I'm going to step probably about 5 feet back into here to get our reading. So okay, so we have our reading here, and what we've got, I'm going to kill this guy. So what we've got is we came up with a color temperature of 5774 Kelvin. So that's not too bad. It's about 200 degrees and some shy of 6,000, but it actually gets you a lot closer to the daylight, which is usually around 5600. So coming down a little bit doesn't bother me as much. We have 2,840 lux at 5 feet, and I don't need to tell you guys, this is a really bright light. And our CRI is 95.4, and perhaps more importantly, our TLCI is 97.3. So both of those ratings are above 95, which is what Aputure promised, and both of those mean that you're going to get some really good quality light out of this light fixture here. So I am pretty happy with that. So we'll go ahead and we'll test a couple of other lights and see where they stack up. But from what I can tell for the actual tech specs, this light does everything that it says that it will, and it is a bright light with some really high quality light. So two of the measurements that I mentioned earlier were CRI and TLCI. And I want to briefly go into what the difference is between them right now. So CRI is one that we hear quite often, and a lot of manufacturers use that to tell you what the quality of their light is, and what it stands for is Color Rendering Index. Now, we've used that for a long time, and a lot of people swear by that as the method for judging the quality of light, but technically what you really should be looking at is the TLCI. And what TLCI is the Television Lighting Consistency Index. I had to think about that one for a second. But what it is basically it's the difference between CRI being the way colors are interpreted by your eye and how accurately that light will allow your eye to see colors, while TLCI is rated for how accurately a camera is going to be able to see those colors. So obviously that's more important for us. Now you may think, well, if the CRI is good enough, the TLCI should be good enough too, right? Not always the case. To show you a demonstration of that, right here I have the Aputure 120D. Here I have another brand light that is a similar style of a single source LED light. About $300 cheaper than the Aputure. Both of them have their respective Bowens mount Fresnel lenses on them so that we can spot them onto this backdrop behind me. So what I want to do is I want to check each of these, and I want to see what their CRI is, and I more importantly want to see what their TLCI is, and I think we're going to see a difference here. So let's go ahead and let's start with the Aputure. So we take our reading. All right, our Aputure gives us a CRI rating of 95.5, which is great, but more importantly, a TLCI rating of 97.4. So that's fantastic. That means that both to our eyes and to cameras, the color recreation coming from this light is going to look accurate. Now let's check on the cheaper light and see what we get. So take our reading. And here we go. So we get a CRI on this light of 91.3. Now, that means the manufacturer would advertise this as being probably a 90 plus CRI light, and you'd think that's fantastic. Then we get to our TLCI, which is what we're really looking for, and this light has a TLCI of 68.9. Which means you're going to have some serious color shifts. And you can probably actually see just behind me the difference between the two lights. One is going to look white and one looks like it has a little bit of color shift going on in there. And that's because of the TLCI and the quality of the LED. So hope you understand the difference between CRI and TLCI, and make sure to try and check out the TLCI of lights and ask manufacturers if they have those specs on their lights, because it's really going to help you get the best quality light. So like I said, I'm joined today by a bunch of my buddies from Gear Jones, and with me right now is Tim Wilson, aka Blackmagic Tim.
That's right.
Tim, thanks for coming out, for bringing some lights, and for helping me get this space to check out the new Aputure light today.
It's a pleasure to help you out, Bart. Love your channel.
So one of the things that we're talking about the Aputure 120D and the 120T is that we said they're a hard light, or like a single source light, which is different from people are used to when they think of LED lights, which is sort of panels like we have here with the light storm, where it's a whole bunch of different individual light sources on a panel. So why is it important that one is a panel and one is a single point or a hard source light?
Well, with an array of lights like this, you get more of a spread of light. So you may be able to illuminate a larger source of area as opposed to a spotlight where you can just key in on one particular thing. So with this, we've got, I forgot how many LEDs are on this panel. Do you remember exactly?
I don't.
It's a whole lot of LED panels. You can see, look at all these lights. And what that does is it creates a big source of lighting, but since you have so many individual bulbs, they all cast their own little light source and shadowing. So you end up getting a stranger light source pattern than you do with just one single bulb.
Yeah, a lot of times people talk about panels with multiple light sources like this. You get what they call micro shadows.
Right.
And so you don't really get hard, crisp shadows. And also, like you said, it's more of a blast or a flooding of light. Now, this is the LS1S, which is actually the spot version.
Right.
And so it has a more narrow beam angle, but it still is a wash of light. Even though we have barn doors on it, you can't really cut the light. So let's go ahead real quick and turn this guy on and see what we can get with those barn doors. So you can see you get that. And so if we go ahead and close the barn doors up and try and cut that light.
This is at 100%. This is the daylight. And as you can see, as we try to bring these barn doors in, what happens is, if you could even get them to a small point, which you really can't, it just basically brings down the intensity of the light more so than creating any kind of cut.
Yeah, you're not cutting the light at all. And the other thing we were talking about, if you look at the shadow of my hand on here, I'm not sure if we can see it on our back camera. Here, turn the intensity down a little bit for us there. See if we can see some of that shadow.
It's at 50%.
But there's no real defined shadow. There's a ton of different points. It looks like I have 20 fingers.
Yeah.
And that's just what you're going to get from panels. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want something that you can shape a little bit easier, that's where we come to the single point or hard source lights, like the 120. So what we've got here is, since all of the chip LEDs are all concentrated together, they act as a single source. And so right now I've put some barn doors on this. That's one of the beauty of using the Bowen system, is it doesn't come with barn doors, but I was able to pick up some barn doors for it. And I'll put those in the description down below if you guys want to pick those up. But you'll see we're really able to cut this light. So let me go ahead and turn this guy on, and boom, that's ridiculous. So let me open it up first and show what we start with. So we can spill light everywhere.
And no, it's real even too. It's a really even pattern of light.
And look, we're getting a pretty defined, pretty crisp shadow.
I can tell that's a hand.
Yeah, exactly. And then if we wanted to get even further into it, is when we can start coming in with our barn doors, and we can actually shape that pretty darn well.
Yep.
And I mean, that's just something that you couldn't do with a panel light and with something that has multiple sources. Oh, you can see the nice broken finger, crooked shadow there. That's awesome. But yeah, so that's basically the benefit of a hard source light. They're more like traditional tungsten lights from, I want to say old time filming days, but it wasn't that many years ago that we didn't have LEDs. But you can put modifiers on there, you can shape, you can cut light, and you can really play with shadows as opposed to just flooding.
And that's also an open source bulb as well. So
it's open face. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So I don't have the Fresnel lens attachment or anything on it right now. It's just the reflector dish that kind of helps to focus it a bit, and then some barn doors put on the front of it, and you can get something like this.
Yep.
So yeah, very cool light, and really versatile, and that'll give you an idea of the effect that you can achieve with different modifiers.
Let me tell you something else too.
Light.
What I've tried to do with this light, which doesn't work too well, is sometimes I like to fog up a room and shoot this through a window and create that little beam of light. Now, although this is super intense and it makes a great beam, it's also very flooded.
It spreads.
Yeah, it doesn't look as good. Now with this, you can make a nice crisp beam that comes straight through and hit your subject, and it'll look just like you see in those movies where you got that beam of light that comes down to your subject.
So you get that sort of like the DVD cover of like The Exorcist, that like stream of light coming down through fog kind of thing. That's a good point. You can shape the actual beam and keep it really, really almost razor thin. If we had some smoke in here, you'd be able to see just a little beam across like that. That's a good point. So you got a lot of creative options for using a light like this, which is really cool. So like I've mentioned, one of the cool things about the Aputure 120 lights, both the D and the T, is that they use this Bowens S-mount attachment up front, which allows you to put all sorts of different lighting modifiers on the front and even borrow some from traditional photography. Now, Aputure also makes a few different modifiers that they're making available to us, and one of the newest ones is this right here, and it is actually a Fresnel lens attachment. For those of you who may not know, what a Fresnel lens does is it basically has these rings, these ripples in it that helps to concentrate the light beam. So this will take it and help you to focus down the beam, makes it a little bit more intense, and also allows you to throw light a little bit further. One of the other cool features of this is that it is adjustable, just like old tungsten lights with Fresnel lenses used to be. So on one side here, let me wrap this around. On one side here, we have a knob where you can loosen it, and then you can extend and contract, and it'll change your beam of focus. If you go to the other side, there's actually a scale here that shows you exactly what your beam angle is. So it goes from about a 42-degree beam angle all the way to a 12-degree beam angle when it's fully extended. So let's go ahead and kick this light on, and I'll show you exactly what it looks like. So we get it powered up. And you can see already here we are at the 42-degree setting, so this would be its flood setting. But while before we had a 120-degree spread of this light all over the place, now we have a much more refined and controlled spread. And then if we go ahead and we adjust down to our 12-degree angle, you can see we get a really nice, really defined little ball of light. And this is going to allow you to really control your light and throw it farther, and it even intensifies the light a little bit because you're concentrating it into one spot. Now, a few things about this attachment here. It is made of like a fiberglass plastic. It is durable and sturdy. It feels maybe a little bit janky, but it is actually sturdy and pretty well made. It does have a lot of air vent holes around it, which do throw out some light leaks, but most of them seem to go straight up and straight down, so they're not really pushing into where you're going to be shooting, but just something to be aware of. You may want to cover those up with some black wrap or something like that. Another thing that we noticed, and I'll shut the light off here, another thing that we noticed is that on the front, they've added this metal lip, which will allow you to strap on stuff like barn doors or anything else that fits a 7-inch Bowens dish. But the inside of this is actually metallic and silver. And what happened was we were actually getting a little bit of light bouncing off of this and sort of spreading out into various directions that we didn't want it to. So this may be something that you may want to go ahead and modify, and I may even just spray paint this black to eliminate that, so that the only light we're getting is what's coming out of the front of the glass. But that's just a little nitpicky thing. But this is available from Aputure, and you can go ahead, and I'll have a link down in the description below where you guys can go ahead and pick this up if you're interested in it. So there you go, guys. There's some tests and some thoughts on the new Aputure 120D. Like I said up front, the 120D is identical to the 120T that has been out for a while now, except that this is the 6000K or daylight balance version. So it has the same construction, the same setup with the power pack and controls being separate from the head. It has the same Bowens S mount for accessories, which we went through why that's such a great feature to have. And it's just generally the same build quality and construction. It's just that I like to work with daylight lights as opposed to tungsten, so I was really happy when they came out with this and I got to get a hold of it. So Tim, what were your thoughts on this light, and is this something that you think when it is widely available you'll be interested in?
I am absolutely interested in this light. I love this light to death. I love the color temperature. I'm finally glad they came out with the daylight version. I love the ability to spotlight it. I love the the Fresnel that you can put on to really get that sharp image, sharp light focus. It's a keeper, man. I would take it. I wish it was available right now because I could buy it right now.
Yeah, hopefully they got them coming out soon. I think they're supposed to be shipping pretty soon. And I'm sure we'll get some updates on that as when I go to NAB, I'll be asking about when everybody can get that. But do keep an eye out. These should hopefully, like I said, be shipping really soon. They really are high quality lights. They give you that ability to cut, to shape, to throw light farther. There's just so many things you can do with it. And having that Bowens S mount on the front means you can get affordable light modifiers from various brands. They don't have to be Aputure branded, and you can pop them on here and you can do all sorts of cool stuff with this light. So all in all, guys, I hope that helped you out. Hope that gave you some information on the 120D, let you know that all of the claims in terms of its CRI, TLCI, and color temperature are all accurate. And I hope it was helpful if you were looking at purchasing one of these for your own kit. So please, guys, as usual, go ahead and like the video down below if you liked it. Go ahead and dislike it if for some reason you hate me. And of course, always please subscribe so you'll be notified whenever I release reviews and other educational videos like this. And make sure to click that new little bell thing that YouTube has added so that you get a notification when I have one of these videos come out, and then you can be one of the first ones to check it out. So Tim, thank you very much for helping me out today with both the space and lighting and camera. Derek has been hiding in the back the whole time, but thank you to Derek as well from Gear Jones. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. I'll see you in the next one.
Take care.